protection. I don't know if anyone has had dealings with the court of protection.
Very expensive, very slow. 5,000 quid 6 years ago, and you have to account for every penny to the court, and every year you do your accounts. It's a total pain. You do not want to either do it or force somebody else to do it for you.
Pay you that tenner later. Thank you. But who do I appoint? And I think that's probably one of our challenges, because we don't have children that would automatically step in. Just because somebody does have children, it doesn't mean they're the right people to just automatically step in, to be clear. So this is probably where people feel the most stuck. So usually people would appoint spouses and partners if you've got them. They might look at siblings, but obviously siblings might be the same age as you or a similar age. So that's a little bit of an issue. We might have friends, but again, your friend group might be a similar age. Godchildren is obviously one, nieces and nephews, but they've got their own life. Do they want to be burdened by you? So lots of people might go towards a professional attorney or have a combination of all of them, really. Obviously, professionals will charge. That's the thing I have to say out loud.
I did hear about a professional attorney once. It was in the paper, and they actually done a scam. They were set up as a professional attorney, and they actually had all the rights to everything.
Yeah.
They actually took all the money, and the relatives couldn't get into it and get hold of it. So they took them completely to the cleaners, basically.
So if you are going
be
to appoint a
careful.
professional, let's make sure they're regulated. Let's make sure they're not a rogue. You know, unfortunately, there are rogues out there. There are people that do exploit vulnerable people, you know, but there are safeguards and things in place where you can check who people are, make sure they're acting appropriately and properly. So Andrew and I, we generally have more of a layered approach, because whenever we're doing estate planning, we kind of want to plan for the future, really, and future proof it as much as possible. So, you know, we might have our brothers and sisters appointed, but if they're unable or unwilling, then we might have nieces and nephews, for example. So you can always have different layers. So it might be that somebody's suitable today, but perhaps they're not going to be able later on. What we don't like doing is leaving things to chance, because I hear clients go, well, that's fine, I'll just update my will later. And it's like, but you might not have capacity to do that. So, you know, let's future proof it as best as we can today.
With the LPAs, it must be quite difficult to change the person who's in charge. It took me forever to do the LPAs. By the time it forwarded them back to it.
It's that's why we say, just if you've got people in mind, perhaps you don't want them to be your first choice, you might want them to be your second choice. Let's do last and powers attorney with first choice, and then have your second choice written in, so it's there to fall back on. Removing attorneys can prove challenging, and it's usually only if somebody's like lost capacity and things like that that they can step down. If you're an attorney, you can obviously step down if you wanted to. So yes, it is, but that's why we just say name the people you want, thinking about what the future might hold as best as we can. We don't have obviously crystal balls, but we can kind of have some sort of prediction of what it might look like. So passing assets to the right people. So making wills and recording your wishes is super important, even if you don't have children. And that's one of the things I get asked quite a lot. So from my experience, people care deeply about assets they've collected, and it doesn't have to be monetary, but you might have some photographs that you want to go somewhere, or, you know, some items that you would really want to go to a charity, or collectible items that you might have, or family heirlooms that you want to be passed on. So these are all really important considerations. So mainly, a will allows you to create specific gifts. So you can choose who will benefit and under what and what circumstance. So if you wanted to leave cash gifts, you can. If you wanted to leave specific items, you can. So you can be really detailed in a will about what you want to achieve. You choose who benefits. So I don't know if anyone's had experience of the intestacy law. This is what the law is if you don't have a will. It's a 1925 law. It has not been updated for over 100 years. It does not recognise modern day life. It doesn't even recognise, you know, stepchildren or cohabitees or anything like that. So it's really important that if you want to make sure your wishes are outlined, that you put it in a legal document and make it happen. Otherwise, the law will not choose for you, it will just direct who gets what, and it might not be people you would want. Letter of wishes. So alongside your will, you can actually write wishes about what you would like. So perhaps detailed funeral wishes, or if you've got lots and lots of items that you might want to distribute out, then you can write a letter of wishes to guide your trusted person to make those decisions for you. Charitable gifts. I mean, this is quite an important one. Charities rely on legacies in wills. You know, it's one of the ways that they fund themselves. You know, some of the bigger charities have lots and lots of charities, but some of the local smaller ones, it's really important for them to receive legacy giving. There's obviously tax benefits, inheritance tax benefits for charitable giving, but it might just be that you want to leave your legacy as well. And then finally, asset protection. So, you know, we're all in a situation where we want to try and protect our assets as best as we can to make sure they only go to whomever you want. So carefully written wills and things can help with asset protection. When you're single, you're more limited, but as a couple, there's quite a lot that you can do with regards to asset protection. So without a will, the law decides who gets what. And, you know, we have seen lots of situations where you have to get tracing in place to look for some random cousin you didn't even know existed. And if they can't find any bloodline relatives, it will go to the Crown. So you can fund Prince Andrew. Legal fees.
We are already.
And he's not called Prince Andrew anymore. I made a mistake.
Yes, right. Yes, again.
So I have just put a slide in just for partners. I know not everyone has got partners, but I thought it was relevant. So in general speaking, when somebody has got a partner, they would probably do a mirror will, which is where the terms reflect each other. So it doesn't matter which one dies first, the outcome will be exactly the same. There are some downsides to mirror wills, in as much that it doesn't allow for asset protection. Your partner might go off and meet a younger model later on and change all of their will and leave it to.
You read it,
Well, it's something I've thought about already. So you might want to include trust planning and things. You might have vulnerable people that you want to consider, so trust would be essential for that. And they can be used for a whole reasons, lots and lots of reasons. Care fee planning is quite a big one for couples. So there is a way that you can safeguard 50% of your property. I'm not going to sit here today and say, put your house into a trust, you're going to save care fees. There is lots of will writers and estate planners out there. Please do not fall foul of it. There's deprivation of assets rules and things that are really frightening. And I'm not confident that everyone gets the full facts when they go into those sort of schemes. If somebody did genuinely want to talk about that, it is something I can talk to you about. But my experience is 9 out of 10 times when I tell you about all of the downsides, you go, oh God, no, Kylie, I don't want to do that. And then, as we said about the remarriage risk, I'm already lining my younger model up.
It's guaranteed with that sound.
Just very quickly touching on inheritance tax. When you're not married, you don't benefit as greatly from inheritance tax as married couples can. And also, if you don't have children, you don't benefit as much as married couples or those with children. So it's a little bit discriminatory. It is under the government's radar, but I think they've got other priorities at the moment than fixing nil rate bans and stuff. So generally, a nil rate band is the amount that anyone can have before they have to pay inheritance tax. And as at today's rate, that is set at 325,000. That rate has been in place, I can't even tell you how long. When I started in this industry back in the 90s, that used to change every year. But obviously, since we've had the different governments that we've had, they have frozen our nil rate band. So it's not increasing in line with property values. And actually, a lot more estates are paying tax than ever before. Then the worst one is our residence nil rate band. So this only qualifies to those people who have lineal descendants, i.e. children, grandchildren, etc., and are leaving property to them. So in my situation, I will not be able to benefit from a residence nil rate band, which is really frustrating. So where family relationships are a little bit more complex. So as I mentioned right at the beginning, it might mean, yes, you might have children biologically, but you don't have a relationship with them anymore. And that's absolutely fine. But what that might mean is there could be some complexities to any estate planning that we would want to look at. So if you have estranged children and you die without a will in place, they will inherit automatically. And there's nothing you can do about that unless, of course, you put your will in place. If you do write a will and you exclude a child, they can make a claim against your estate. It doesn't mean it will be successful. They're just in the allowable category of people that can make a claim. Most people, when you say to them, that's fine, claim, and you find out how expensive it is and how time consuming it is, and that they're probably going to have to cough up a couple of grand just to even start the process, they go away. There's not many that I've seen in the 30 years I've been practicing where have actually gone through to a successful claim. So I think the clear documentation is essential, because if you haven't got somebody there who is close to you and who can advocate for you, you need to document it. So that's really important. LPAs are critical, as we've explored, because that gives you choice over what medical care you have, what care needs you have. You might have religious beliefs that you want to include, dietary wishes. Some of our ladies insist on having her hair done every week. It's fine. We can cater for it in your documents.
Can I just ask a really stupid question?
Yeah.
What's an LPA?
Lasting power of attorney.
Thank you.
Lasting power of attorney. So just from our point of view, so we're local to you, so we specialise wills, lasting powers of attorney, trust planning. We have experience with dealing with complex situations or couples who haven't got children. That's absolutely fine. We always provide clear advice without legal jargon. I've tried today to avoid using legal words because it's not necessary. You present what your concerns are and we will provide a solution. We don't need to tell you what type of trust that might be or what type of document. That's just legal jargon you don't need to be bogged down with. Everything's fixed fees, transparent. So if you did want to find out anything, we do have our price list here today. We're not just about documents. We're not there to just draft a will for you. We are there for ongoing support and anything else that you might need, any questions, and no question is a silly question. But we're always there to help. And then I think in terms of, well, who are you? So I'm STEP qualified, which means I'm a trust and estate practitioner. That's the highest level of qualification you can have in this area of law. So I've specialised in this area. I don't touch any other area of law. I'm not interested in divorce or anything like that. I just deal with estate planning and private client matters. That's it. So we deal with probate and estate planning in the main, and we've got lots and lots of local families that we support. I know I don't look old enough, but I have been doing it for nearly 30 years. We're really proud of our 5-star reviews. We're really boast them. So all over Google, we get 5-star reviews all the time. Ellie is the one that has the lack of shame and asks for them, basically. Oh, we're really happy with the job you've done, Ellie. Well, leave us a review. She asked for it. Obviously, we're local, we're accessible, we're approachable, and we're fully insured and professionally accountable. So that just gives you a little bit of reassurance. So to end with, any questions? So if today has raised any questions, obviously that's completely normal. I might have just raised a few things that you're not too sure of. If you haven't got questions immediately, don't worry. You can always pick up the phone. We do free consultations. But if you want to talk through your personal situation, obviously this is an open forum. You can collar us and we can have a chat, or you can just pop in. Oh.
Yeah, I got a question.
Yes.
I had LPA set up with 2 people in Cornwall where I was living about 7 or 8 years ago. And one of them was my what's they called? The top doctor in my surgery. I saw every 2 weeks for treatment.
Okay.
And she was great. She's really nice. And the head receptionist there, which I know you won't believe this, she was a wonderful doctor's receptionist. She got people appointments to see not just a doctor, but whichever was the best for their problem.
Yeah.
So I've no complaints about them as people, but since I've been here, I've had very little contact. Sarah, the doctor one, I think she does things behind the scenes, but she won't communicate with me, very, very rarely.
Okay.
And the other one sends dippy little messages in response to mine, picture of a cat or something.
Yeah.
But I found out that I had a letter on the day like around the time of my brother's funeral, because it was a solicitor. Obviously, I didn't want to open it without moral support with me. So I waited till a good friend was with me, and then it was a very nice letter, and it said it was full of the usual crap. Beg your pardon. But the bit which I didn't like was we can't keep chasing your LPAs for doing work. And then I think I forwarded it to the LPAs, and eventually, well, I mean, we'd had a little bit of in and out in between. Lynn, the receptionist, wrote back and said, "Oh yes, I've got something for legal to do for you, but I haven't got round to it yet."
Okay.
Now, she wrote this in probably February, beginning of February. And these people, the solicitors, wrote their letter in November. That means that at least since the beginning of October, but probably September, she'd been sitting on this all the time saying, "You've got to come back to Cornwall. We want you back. You know, it's where you should be," all that business, which is true. But she was actually holding things up.
Okay.
Because I'm trying to get ID. I can't do anything legally till I've got ID. And those horrible people say if you haven't got a passport and or a driving license, you're stuck. Well, you know, I'd be illegal if I drove, and I haven't got a passport because I haven't gone for years, and it's very, very difficult for people to get it. You get right in a vicious circle. So, I mean, what do you do if you're? And then I asked lovely Katie Bennett, who set it up, it's illegal. Was there any way in I could sort of wire in, at least temporarily or part-time, somebody that could help? Because while I'm living here, my close friends, we were teenagers, and she wrote back and said, "No, you've got to start all over again." So what do we do? This, you know, can apply to anybody here. If you've got LPAs, you don't want to bin. They're very nice people, or for whatever reason. But they're just not keeping in touch, and you know, you really need them to support you, and they don't.
So your attorneys, are they actively acting for you and managing your affairs, or are you still managing your affairs?
Well, they do a lot, because I've so little sight. I can't see numbers safely.
Yeah.
And you don't want to mess about. You don't want to get numbers wrong. If you get a letter wrong in the spelling, that's fine. But the numbers.
Yeah.
And I was also diagnosed with Alzheimer's years ago, and although they overturned it, in terms of technically, I do have the symptoms which led to the diagnosis.
Yeah.
But none of the support.
So there is a temporary solution you can do. It's called a general power of attorney.
Yeah.
So it's not as strong as a lasting power of attorney, but there is certainly something temporary you could do.
Yeah. Or is there a way that I can sort of tactfully get the ones who are doing it to do it already?
So you kind of probably have to raise a little bit of a niggle with them.
Yeah.
Because the key thing with an attorney is they're supposed to be acting in your best interests.
Yeah.
So sitting on something for 3 or 4 months isn't acting in your best interests. And, you know, obviously we appreciate people are busy, but they shouldn't have taken the role if they wouldn't be able to fulfill that. So you probably have to niggle a little bit.
I have said to both of them at some point, you know, because obviously I've probably been more trouble than you expected, because they didn't expect me to move house. And well, that really, because that's brought on a lot of problems. So, you know, I said if either of you want to withdraw, well, because Sarah's now she's half bought the practice, so she's very busy. You know, I said if you know the last problem was what, you know, was the last camel's back straw or whatever.
Yeah.
I said, you know, do say no hard feelings, we'll still be friends, etc.
Yeah.
And I tried to find something. She said, absolutely not. No. So it's not, even if they want to not do it, they don't want to actually not. Do you know what I mean?
I do, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of apathy there, I would say. It's like we just push it to one side because we're so busy with life that, and then time creeps by. So it might be that they're not the best professional.
Well, I mean, I think Sarah does things, so that's fine. But I just wish she would tell me.
Yeah.
And then I sort of hear from later on or something. She just seems to assume I'll know by osmosis or the fact that she's done it, I
Yeah.
trust her to do it, and then I don't have to worry. But I think anybody wants to know that somebody's done
Yeah.
whatever it is. And as I said, I was absolutely intellectually angry, not emotionally angry. It's at Lynn not doing this paperwork.
Well,
It
understandable.
seems so two-faced, saying we want you back, all this, come back. And all she had to do was to do some little legal boring form to fill in. And because she said it's about your ID, and she knows that I've had trouble with the
Yeah.
ID, because I haven't even been able to get an ID card from the ID people. They keep wanting
Well, there's
a
lots of
passport
there's
or a driving license.
there's lots of solutions about ID. We deal with lots and lots of people who do not have passports and who do not have driver's
Yeah.
licenses, and there are always ways around it. So, we'd be happy to talk to you about your options there. Just point you in the right direction, okay?
Yeah.
But I'm sorry you've had trouble, but if you need any guidance, then you know where we
Yeah.
are. Okay.
I think this is something to address the group about what happens if they'll be they're not doing it.
Yeah, so I think, the main things I would perhaps recommend is potentially going to the post office with free forms of ID. So free forms of ID would be birth certificate, bank statement, utility bill, anything like that is enough to prove who you are. So regulated firms would require free forms of ID if you don't have photographic ID.
The ID people say a birth certificate isn't good enough now.
No, it has to be with other bits. That's the thing. So
anyway, mine's under a different name, so it wouldn't help.
No, so I would say like 3 different forms. So DWP letters are good, HMRC letters, NHS letters, because they're all official bodies.
Right.
So anything like that is sufficient and then you would need to get it certified. So a solicitor
but
can
the
certify it.
company I went to, well, I think it was government side, they said, no, we don't want any of this. And I mean, they've got me on record, as they've got everybody on record, with the same national insurance number, but they won't even trace it through that.
Yeah, well, we help people all the time with
Right.
ID issues.
Okay.
So yeah,
Right.
it's definitely something that can be achieved.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
All right. So I think that's everything. So has anyone else got any other questions? Yeah.
Well, hopefully this will only require a yes or no.
Okay.
Basically, my late husband and I made mirror wills about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And obviously, he's deceased, and I was the sole inheritor of everything. At the time, we made provision for what would happen if both of us died.
Yeah.
So what I'm now asking you is, does the will that I now hold, is that still a valid will, or should I be making a new one?
Okay, so I work in law, so I can never say yes or no.
Oh.
So I'm going to have to say it depends. It genuinely depends. Most of the time, your will would be sufficient.
Okay.
Things that I would need to see the document to say for definite. That's why I say it depends.
Yeah.
We see lots of clients where they go, oh no, it's mirror wills, it'll all be fine. But actually, there was a protective property trust or something in the will that wasn't set up, or there's a mutual will explanation. There can be loads of things that stand out that people wouldn't be aware of that we can flush out and then guide you on your options. So I'm sorry I couldn't say yes or no, but it depends.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Okay. Yeah.
Can you check on solicitors, find out if they're actually any good? Because I'll tell you why, because they made a will many years ago.
Yeah.
They lost it. They
Okay.
they moved the building
Yeah.
somewhere, they transferred it, and all the wills got lost.
Yeah.
They could not find our will.
Yeah.
So in the end, I had to go make a new one. They totally lost all the paperwork, everything. So I just wonder if there's any way you can check them online.
So there are review sites where you can go to review a solicitor or something like that. Obviously, you've got Google you can look at as well. So you can, the SRA, which is the regulatory body for solicitors, which is Solicitors Regulatory Authority. They've got a website. They actually show when solicitors have been naughty. So they have their disciplinary records on there, which you can have a little woggle at.
Well, these went out of business, I think, eventually. So
Business, the Solicitors Regulatory Authority is supposed to come in and rescue that practice and look after the client's paperwork.
Well,
It
they lost
doesn't
everything. They lost
always go according to plan. So I have managed to retrieve some clients' documents that have gone under, but not always. So it's very hit and miss.
Well, if he had a copy of the will, then that would be sufficient on its own, would it not?
Sometimes, so the main thing with
Well,
a
I think
lost
that
will,
extra
if you
protection.
like, if you've got a lost will, a will is still valid even if if it's not lost, because you can only revoke a will, cancel a will if you want to do that.
Yes.
So a lost will in itself doesn't mean that it doesn't exist anymore. It just means that you might need to prove a copy or something like that later on. But that can be notoriously difficult to do as well. So my advice would be, yes, if you've got your faculties, let's get a new will in place
It's
just
only
to
because
cover
I
off.
went to update it, one of the contacts will update it, they couldn't find it.
Yeah.
And then 3 months later, they actually phoned through and said, well, we can't find it anywhere.
Yeah, and that's,
Next
you know,
thing
one
you
of the
know.
questions about where do you store your will? So, you know, our advice is keep it at home if you have personal papers. Only keep it with us if you've got a concern about keeping it at home. You know, you might have somebody who's a bit wayward who comes in and you don't necessarily trust them to have access to your documents. So, you know, you don't have to keep it with a professional firm. You're all grown-ups, you can look after your own documents. Any other questions?
Yes. Enduring power of attorney,
Yeah,
2003,
yeah,
it's been superseded by your lasting powers of attorney.
yes.
Where does that leave me?
So these are still valid documents, enduring powers of attorney. The only downside with an enduring power of attorney is they're very limited about how much your attorneys can do for you, and they can only register them once you've lost mental capacity. So if it turns out when they go to register it that there's something wrong with it, you won't be able to do a new one. So the general advice nowadays is, again, if you've got all your faculties and you can do a lasting power of attorney, it's wider, it covers finance and as well as health, because that one won't. That will only cover one aspect. So it's just a lot broader now. So the rules did change for all of the right reasons, but yes, it has left these enduring power of attorney sort of sat there, but it is still a valid document, but could cause you some troubles.
So it does make.
Do you want me to do a yes or no?
That's why they trend.
But you can do it all online, can't you?
You can indeed.
Yourself
You
personal.
can indeed. So you can do your lasting powers of attorney online.
Still costs you money, but
It's £92 to register, but not everybody has to pay registration fees. If you're on certain types of benefits and things, you can get remissions and exemptions.
what
So
about if you've got an enduring one? Do you get a reduction for that because it's their fault? It's no longer
no,
put it on.
because it still needs to be registered. So it's the same registration fee.
Got it.
Anything else?
Yes,
Yeah.
we've got mirror wills and LPAs, and my husband Tony is now in a dementia care home with no capacity, so that left, although I'm still acting for him, it left me vulnerable. So I phoned our solicitors and they said, oh, when you set all this up, we must have set up 2 partners in the firm to
Okay.
act for me if I lost capacity. So she said, you don't need to do anything. So is that all right? Am I covered? Well, I presume I am.
I mean, again, it depends. I'll have to have a look to say for certain.
Yeah.
But the trouble you have is if they've named 2 actual people in that firm,
Two partners.
if they've named them individually,
yes,
they will move on.
yes.
You will get stuck, and I can't tell you how many clients I have who are stuck with professional appointments where the person doesn't operate anymore.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge of appointing law firms. When you appoint something like a trust corporation, you appoint the entity. So you appoint the company, and then there's always going to be a company. A company doesn't die. A company, you know, doesn't have mental capacity issues. It will always be present. So
It's complicated.
it can be, yeah. But I think, you know, the main thing with our job is we look at you as a unit and what's going on. We look at the paperwork you've got in place. And if it's fine, we'll say it's fine, leave it. But if it needs tweaking, we would recommend some certain tweaks. I think one of my concerns would be for you, for example, is that, you know, your husband's in care at the moment. And I know that, you know, is he getting state funding for that?
Yes, we are now, but they're taking you know, his pension and
Yeah.
attendance allowance and all that.
So I would be
Yeah.
concerned about your property, for example. So potentially splitting it in half, so your half is completely protected. that would probably be quite a sensible step to take.
Yes.
Yeah, so that is something you're allowed to do, even if the other party doesn't have capacity. You can do that. We've actually just done that like in the last week for a client, I think, haven't we? Yeah.
That's good advice.
Yes.
Yeah.
We set up lasting powers of attorney a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
One of our attorneys, like 40 years younger than us, has recently died, which wasn't expected, obviously.
Yeah.
Probably feel a bit vulnerable that can we add another attorney to our existing
You have to start again.
start again?
That's the worst thing with lasting powers of attorney, is you can't do an addition, you can't add to it. You've got to do a new document. You can remove people as long as you've got other people remaining, but you can't add to it. That is the only downside really with them.
Money, money, money again.
Yeah.
All the time.
I'm under it.
But is this the difference with what you were saying? What we do, solicitors don't. Solicitors know, yeah, come back. But when you put things in place, like Kylie said at the very beginning,
Yeah.
she would ask the second question. If that person isn't in, which seems at the time a joke, we thought, of course he's going to be there. Because we're talking about the
People
younger
don't
person.
think about that next layer. They're
Yeah.
like, oh, I want my niece and nephew, and I'm like,
questions in it. But
but
Yes.
what,
what put it in, and then you get a saving. And
How many
Yeah.
layers do you have?
Generally, so you can name 4 people first of all, and then you can have another 4 named as alternatives. So you can have up to 8
Wow.
people named. And then the way they act, we can specify and say, well, this person's in charge of those responsibilities and that person's in charge of those responsibilities. So you can make them really bespoke personal documents. That's something you might struggle with doing online yourself, because it kind of
Yeah.
takes a little bit of special drafting, more money.
yeah, every time you get it wrong and send it in, that's another £90.
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing. I
Yeah.
don't know if some of you have also done lasting powers of attorney, and the sign-in process is really arduous. It's just not necessary for it. It is, yeah. So you have to have your donor, and then you have your attorneys, and you have your certificate provider, and you've all got to sign in a certain order. And if you get it wrong, then the Office of Public Guardian go, no, it's not acceptable, and then you've got to do it all over again. So that's why we oversee it.
Experience says do it with a firm that does a fixed fee, because otherwise you've got an open purse for people to carry on as long as they want. So
Yeah.
always go for a set fee.
Fixed fee, that's it.
You're not employed by us, are you? We haven't got a moles out here.
All of those things.
Yeah.
I've done every
Yeah.
one of them.
Thanks, Mum.
It's like you're using.
She's brilliant.
We're going through this process of getting our documents signed.
Yeah.
And at one point it went to somebody's letterbox and the dog ate it. So we had to start again.
The dogs are covered.
Yeah. So I mean, that is a downside of relying on the post system. So yes, I mean obviously when people are local, it's quite easy because we just do like a sign-in party where we're like, come on everyone, let's all get together and get it all signed in one go, and we oversee it, and there's pages flying everywhere. But we've got people all over the world that we work with, and we do have to rely on the post system and things. But often we will email the sheets to them and say, you print it out and post it back to us.
Yeah.
Yes, I do have dogs in the office, but they don't eat the post. So it'd be okay. Any other questions?
Is it possible, we've got just a handwritten wills because it's just so simple, to get a firm to do the probate?
Yep.
Just to sort it out, so we can leave it to a nephew who's a bit scattering, just tell him, just take this.
Yeah, so probate's one of those things you can do yourself, or you can ask a firm to act for you. And it's one of those things, you might want to do some bits, but you might not want to do the legal bit. So, a firm might do the legal bit for you, but you do all of the clearing the property and dealing with the funeral wishes. So it can be very mixed on what you would want. Right. Well, thank you for having us. We will loiter around for a minute so you can ask me something.
Thank you so much,
That's
Kylie.
okay.
Thank you. What time are we? Sorry, I haven't got a watch on. Are we all right on time? 1:15. So we've got a bit of time. I have put the notes, if anyone wasn't here at the last meeting we had, I have got some notes, but I have emailed them out to everyone, I think. So feel free to take a copy of those. I'll just remind myself of what we said we were going to do.